Now, for today's Hollywood happenings, Jim Ferguson spoke to one of the stars of the movie From The Maddening Crowd.
So let's see what happened when he took a step back into the Victorian era.
Good morning. I'll take a look at a famous literary classic by Thomas Hardy, From The Maddening Crowd. The film opens next week, but I have an interview with one of the stars of the movie, Michael Sheen, who plays a prosperous, mature bachelor.
For when your time it is past and gone, you care no more for you, and every place where your time was waste will all spread over through, will all spread over through.
Wonderful job in From The Maddening Crowd. I just admired your performance from beginning to end.
Thank you.
Would you agree with me that Thomas Hardy's 1874 classic novel, his character of Ms. Everdeen, is timeless?
It certainly feels modern. I mean, that was one of the things that struck me when I first read the novel, because I hadn't read it at school. Most people say, oh, I read this first at school, but I'd never read it before. And I was really struck by how much that character jumped off the page and seemed a very modern character in lots of ways. And so I suppose, if that makes it timeless, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, she would be a modern woman today.
Yeah, I mean, her challenges throughout the film are, how does she exist in a society that is mostly a patriarchal society, and yet she's a landowner. She owns her own farm, and get an acceptance from that. And how does she cope with the different demands on her, both romantically and financially? And you know, she's an independent woman in a male-dominated society.
And a rarity for a Victorian woman, Victorian age. I mean, way ahead of her time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and maybe in some ways it makes it easier that she's not in the city. In other ways, it makes it harder because there's all kinds of different prejudices. But yeah, it's definitely it has a very modern feel to it. It certainly resonates, I think, for a modern audience.
So it's a good timing, 48 years later, after the last screen version, to redo this classic again, to bring it out.
I guess so, and also, what part of what drew me to it as well was the fact that Carey Mulligan is playing that character. And one of the things that I love about her work is that she plays very strong characters, but she's not afraid to bring vulnerability and to play the flaws of those characters as well. And so they seem very real, and I thought she would be able to encompass the complexity of that character.
She does that, yeah.
And also Thomas Vinterberg directing it, who brings something very fresh to it and a very different eye to it, and I thought that was really exciting.
Christopher! It's your uncle's will! He's left you everything. Oh, my goodness.
From now on, you have a mistress, not a master. It is my intention to astonish you all.
Miss Everdene's here now, so you better do your best work.
Perhaps you can't lend a hand.
You don't think I would?
No, you wouldn't.
How much?
£5 a quarter.
Very well.
Miss Bathsheba Everdeen, would you like to marry me?
Mr. Eric, I don't want a husband. If I ever were to marry, I'd want somebody to tame me, and you'd never be able to do it. Mr. Baldwood, it's Miss Everdeen, your neighbor.
Good hunting, Miss Everdeen.
As I said, From The Maddening Crowd opens next Friday in Tucson. On Tuesday, I'll talk to Matthias Schoenaerts. On Friday, it's the star of the From Maddening Crowd film, Oscar-nominated Carey Mulligan. However, opening in theaters today from Marvel, the big action sci-fi adventure, Avengers: Age of Ultron, starring Robert Downey Jr. And I'm going to see you next Tuesday, right here on The Morning Blend.
Don't believe it.
Why?